So far, you've seen how to work with a set of default widgets that we can add to our blog's sidebar. And as cool as they are, one other option that we have available to us is the ability to create custom widgets, which is extremely cool stuff. Now, this is where an understanding and a working knowledge of HTML and CSS really comes into play here. But I'll try and keep this nice and easy for us here. So what I want to do here with you is I want to go and create a custom widget that's going to involve a graphic. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head over to the admin tab. I'm still inside my widgets screen inside the admin console. And there's a widget that's available to us here which allows us to work with either text or custom HTML and CSS. I'm just going to scroll down here and look for this guy. There he is right there. Text is the name there. Arbitrary text or HTML. So that's the guy that we're after. On one of the blogs that I run, I think I make use of about 4 or 5 of these guys inside the sidebar. Just kind of a nice, easy way to pull off some customization, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll take this guy and I'll drag him over onto the sidebar on the right. Of course, I've got to drag this guy upwards as well. And I want to drop this guy right below the search field, right below the search widget there. And as soon as I drop the text widget onto the sidebar, he expands out and he's kind of super huge here. And it wants a title. And then it also gives us this wide open text field. And inside this field, we can type in whatever we want, right? So here's what I'm going to do. The title that I'm going to add in here is going to be another cartoon. There we are, something like that. Okay, and then inside this sort of main body area, as I say, you can type in whatever you want. You could hand code in some HTML if you want, perhaps an unordered list or an ordered list or something like this. You know, we saw a lot of this earlier, right? So you can certainly do that. Or oftentimes what I wind up doing is I create something in Dreamweaver. I create my widget code inside Dreamweaver, and of course Dreamweaver is writing all the code for me, and then I take that block of code and I copy it and then I paste it into this field here, right? Now, what I've done for us is I've already created the HTML code that you and I need to pull off this custom widget. So no worries if you don't have a working knowledge, a familiarity with HTML and with CSS. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hide my browser and I'm going to go all the way down to my desktop into my project files folder. And inside the project files, you'll find a text file called Widget.txt. Go ahead and pop open that guy. And this guy contains all of the code, well, not only the code, but also the content that we want for that widget. So what I'd like you to do is select all this code and copy it. Okay, perfect. You can close out of the file and close your folder window there. And I'll just flip back over to Firefox. And then inside this main field here, I'm simply going to paste Command V or Control V. Perfect. Okay, let's see how this guy looks. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save so that my changes are saved there. And I'll go ahead and collapse my text module there, my text widget, so everything's nice and organized there. And let's go and see how this guy works. I'm going to flip back over to the live blog, the live tab there, and then go ahead and refresh your browser, Command R or Control R, and you should wind up with something like this. So there's another cartoon, and then our graphic, and then below that, Jeff just can't help but draw cartoons. That's the idea there. Okay, very cool. It worked. But let's do a little bit of customization, some very simple customization here to further customize our widget. And I also want to show you exactly how this widget is functioning. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll flip back over to my widget category, my admin console here. And then let's go ahead and pop open the text widget over inside the sidebar there. Another cartoon. Okay, great. I'll just scroll down here a little bit. All right, so here's what we have. We have something called a div. I don't know if you have a familiarity with what a div is, but anyway, there's a div in there, which is essentially wrapping around the entire sort of block of code that we have here. And then what we have is a href. So we have a hyperlink. So what I did here is I created a mail to link to my email address here. You can change that if you want. You can change that to your email address if you like. And then what I did is I dropped in an image. img source equals, and then this image is sitting on one of my websites right now, jeff-blake.com /head1.jpg. And hopefully, if you're trying this out on your own, hopefully I haven't gone and deleted that graphic by accident. But anyway, this is a live graphic that's live on the web anyway. And then what I did is I threw in a title there as well, send an email. So when you move your mouse over top of that graphic, a little tooltip will appear there, send an email, and then if you click, you can actually send an email to whatever email address you specify here, right? And then of course below that, we just have a paragraph, and you can of course go and change that text as well. So that's the structure of this custom widget. The only other customization I want to do here is I want to set it up so that everything's center aligned inside the sidebar. If I go and flip back to the live blog for a second, you can see that everything's kind of shoved over to the left here. So we want to make sure that everything's nice and centered inside the sidebar. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head to that open div tag, and I'll click just after div. I'll type in a space, align equals, open quote, center, close quote. That's it. Okay, let's save this guy up and head back to our live blog and refresh. Okay, great. Everything's happening here. There's our centered graphic there. If you hover your mouse over top, there's our tooltip, our title that's coming through there. And of course, because the text sits inside the div as well as the graphic, everything center aligns there. That's how it works. So again, you can do some really cool customization, and this is kind of a very rudimentary example of creating a customized widget here for your blog, but really your imagination and your creativity are really the only limits here.